This will be a description of the thinking format that we're going to use throughout the year. You can see that it's sort of organized here into a little chart-like fashion. If, and, then, result, and then interpretation. Next to the if, we write the hypothesis, the thing under investigation. A hypothesis is a first attempt at an explanation. We're trying to explain something in nature. And it often says something like, this causes that. Next to the and, we write the experiment. The experiment is going to be some procedure we set up to test the truthfulness of the hypothesis. The then is going to be our prediction. The prediction is what should happen if the hypothesis is true and we do this experiment. What should be the results? So notice over here there's a note. We have to assume that the hypothesis is true when we make the prediction. So prediction isn't just what we think is going to happen. It's what must happen if the hypothesis is true and we do the experiment as listed here. All right, once we have our prediction, then we next, of course, need to know what the results are. So throughout the year, I'll be telling you the results of different experiments, and sometimes we'll be doing experiments and getting our own results. But so the result portion here is where we write down what happened. That's what happened, not why yet, but just what happened. So what happened is what was the outcome of the experiment. The next step in the thinking format is that we compare the result to the prediction. That's how you're actually going to test the hypothesis. Because remember, this hypothesis here, it was being used to generate the prediction. So now what we want to do is compare the result to the prediction. And here are the two possibilities. If the result matches the prediction, then the hypothesis is supported. If the result does not match, if it's different than the prediction, then the hypothesis is weakened. And you should take a moment to think about why that is. Because remember, we assume the hypothesis to be true when making the prediction. So if the actual result of the experiment is the same as predicted, then that supports the truth of the hypothesis. If the results are different from the prediction, then that weakens the hypothesis. So our interpretation, the final step in our thinking format here, is going to be to ask the question, is the hypothesis supported or weakened? In other words, the interpretation will be the explanation of the results. If the hypothesis is supported, for example, then our interpretation of the experiment is that the hypothesis is true, whatever that hypothesis was. If the results do not match the prediction, then we would say the interpretation is that the hypothesis is weakened, that we can say that we did not get results consistent with the original hypothesis. So an interpretation is a kind of explanation. It's an explanation of the results. The results are just the results, what happened in the experiment. What we do is compare the results to the prediction in order to test the hypothesis. And whatever the outcome of that comparison, that's what we're going to put down here for our interpretation.